This is probably one of the better episodes so far this season. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. Doctor Who, The Demons of the Punjab was the 6th episode in this season 11 of Doctor Who, and we are, I think, about halfway through this season so far. Crazy to think that. Quick review before I get into where we were last week and a little bit more about this episode. Probably one of my favorites. And stick around in the spoiler section because I will talk a lot about why I really like this episode. So where we left off, we had a very standalone episode, a very stock, standard, just Doctor Who episode. The Doctor and the Companions, an injured Doctor and the Companions, were stuck on a medical cruiser trying to figure out how to save it from a very cute, tiny little power-hungry alien. And in the end, they save it. Of course they do, because it's the Doctor. But it also seems very ambiguous if they get off the transport ship and get to the TARDIS, because, and I've said this in pretty much every single episode so far, there has not been much closure in these episodes, and this one was right up there with them because they talk about the Doctor and the Companions going back to the TARDIS, but they don't really show them, and it just left me with a sense of emptiness and not really having any closure of them getting off this transport ship. And along with that, I've had other issues with the writing throughout this series, and last week's episode was really kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, if that's the right word to use, because not only is there no closure of them getting back to the TARDIS, the Doctor is injured throughout the first half of the episode, but then it just kind of goes away, and I'm just like, I don't really care that the Doctor was injured. It was a really great part of the story up until it just went away, and I wish they had kept it and done something about it, because they don't ever really follow it up as much as they probably could have. So those are my thoughts on last week's episode. That's kind of a catch up to where we are now. So for this week's episode, a quick non-spoiler summary. Yaz receives a broken watch from her grandmother, and after hearing some of these stories and her nanny refusing to actually tell some of these stories, Yaz implores the Doctor to take them back to the 60s to just see her nanny, but they end up landing smack dab in the middle of the partition of India. I've already talked a lot about my spoiler-free thoughts on this episode, so from here on out, there will be spoilers. Like I said, this is probably my favorite episode of the series so far. I talk a lot about, throughout this entire series, my issues with the writing of this, and this episode was probably the best well-written. I probably should look up who wrote this episode, but it was just so amazing. Like, it just, compared to all of the other ones, especially to last week's episode, it just filled in all of the gaps in every single plot point of the episode, and you definitely got a lot of closure at the end. You got this really great sense of closure and happiness, and even though it was a very heartbreaking story that was told, you still found a happy point at the end. You felt the entire story was well-rounded. It is definitely a very stock standard Doctor Who episode, but I love the fact that they incorporated history into it because I am a huge history buff. I just love the fact that they incorporated real history into the story again, like they did with Rosa Parks' episode. I really love that they are bringing history back into this series, and the fact that it's based around Yaz and her nanny, and they're both very strong women, and you see that portrayed in this episode. It is definitely a theme throughout this season about strong women, and I love that so much. I did notice though, and I feel like this may just, they may be doing some more episodes. We still have, I think, 5 more episodes left in the season. They will be maybe playing a little bit more into Ryan and Graham's relationship and Ryan's backstory, maybe a little bit of Graham's backstory. We haven't really gotten much backstory on Graham besides the fact that he was married to Ryan's nan, and that they don't really see, well, Ryan and Graham don't really see eye to eye on a lot of things. They really butt heads. They have been developing their relationship a little bit more, but it's always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They work really well together, they mesh well, but then 5 minutes later, it's just back to the way they normally were. They're kind of butting heads. Ryan just really isn't listening to Graham. He kind of talks down to him a little bit. He just treats him like a step-grandfather instead of really kind of listening to him and kind of respecting what he's talking about. But they have been giving us a lot more backstory on Yaz's character, which I love, because I know I predicted in the first episode review that Graham would probably become my favorite companion, which he is. I really do love his character, but Yaz is such a strong female lead, and she is doing so great as the Doctor's companion. I really have been loving getting a lot more of this backstory on her. So as I am wrapping this up, I usually do some theories before talking a little bit about my favorite moment, but because this was such a well-rounded episode and they didn't really have anything extra happen, it was just a very one-off regular Doctor Who episode. Nothing really happens that I think could lead to the final episode. Like most of these others seem to have, like the villains will probably come back. I don't really have any theories. I don't feel like the villains in this episode will be coming back unless there is going to be some really big death or something happening that will go unseen and not really be talked or cared about by many people. So I don't think they will be coming back. Like a lot of the other villains I feel like have the ability to be coming back. Besides that little alien in the last episode, he probably won't be coming back either. Just didn't feel much like he was coming back, but not really any theories for this episode. But my favorite moment in this episode was definitely the conversation between Graham and Yaz. It's the first time that we've really gotten to see the two of them connect and have a conversation on this level, and it was just beautiful to see this softer, more positive side of Graham kind of living in the moment versus being a little bit nervous of what's going to happen if they should or shouldn't be doing something. And it also had one of my favorite quotes, and is probably something that I will be putting into my life going forward, when Graham says this to Yaz. And honestly, I don't know whether any of us know the real truth of our own lives, because we're too busy living them from the inside. So enjoy her, live in this moment, and figure the rest out later. I absolutely love that. It is such a beautiful moment and a beautiful quote. Really just about living your life to the fullest, not worrying about the future or finding out the tiny little mysteries that will probably end up coming to you later. Just take them as they come, enjoy where you are, and enjoy the people around you. Don't think about the future so much. Just, take your time, enjoy your life. But I think that is just about everything I have for this episode. Let me know in the comments your favorite moment from this episode, your favorite episode so far since we are pretty much halfway through this season, and just your thoughts in general on the Demons of the Punjab. I would love to know your thoughts because this is my personal favorite episode, maybe tied for first with Rosa. I love these two historical episodes that are really about some strong female characters. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!